Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Lawmaker Michael Tien points to what he says are loopholes in the government's health code plan. New World First Bus is set for a change in its livery when it merges with sister company Citybus. And Mo Farah sends shockwaves by revealing his real name and how he reached Britain. Chief Executive John Lee says a proposed health code system will not cause inconvenience to most people. But a lawmaker challenged its effectiveness, saying those found positive through rapid tests can still conceal their results. Isaac Lee reports.
Chief Executive John Lee gave an assurance that the health code will only be used to fight COVID. He urged people not to believe rumors that the system will be abused to limit their rights to access public facilities. The government has proposed implementing the mainland-style system, which uses 3 colors to indicate whether a person can get around freely.
The red code is intended to identify people who have been infected, and they should not be going around to spread the virus. And the second group is also very small and well-defined, which are the people who are now being kept in a quarantine hotel.
But a lawmaker pointed to loopholes.
Nobody has been able to come up with an effective solution to in a timely manner, identify those that are infected. Because we don't have compulsory universal testing, people do their rapid test every day. They may not tell others, and they could still go out and eat and everything. We'll never know.
Tien also questioned the necessity of introducing a new system because location tracking bracelets can discourage patients from leaving their homes during isolation. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
Health officials have warned of a rise in COVID cases and some hospital services are cut. This came as some travelers at Shenzhen Bayport were seen walking freely, despite having a red bracelet indicating a positive COVID result. Janice Low reports.
On top of presenting a negative nucleic acid test result 48 hours prior to departure, travelers heading to the mainland are also required to do a rapid nucleic acid test at the border. At Shenzhen Bayport, travelers wearing a red bracelet indicating a positive test result are told to find a way to leave by themselves. This woman who was waiting to cross the border thinks the arrangement is not ideal as it puts others at risk. The Center for Health Protection says it will follow up the situation and announce enhancement measures. At today's daily COVID press briefing, Principal Medical and Health Officer Albert Au said border staff have been carrying out preventive measures. Hong Kong today recorded 2,769 new COVID infections, including 211 imported cases. 17 patients are critically ill and 24 in serious condition. With cases staying high, public hospitals are feeling the pinch.
In some hospital and some cluster, we start to readjust the quota for elective surgery, and such as the endoscopy service, elective cardiac interventions, or some of the elective surgery for some benign tumors. And so these measures are to mobilize both the manpower and beds so as to accommodate and anticipate the upsurge of pandemic patients.
Officials warn that if infections continue to rise, there could be as many as 6,000 cases daily after 2 weeks. Janice Low, HKIBC.
Healthcare services may soon be available for long COVID patients. Chances improved as the Chinese university launched the city's first survey on the condition that afflicts some people who recovered from COVID. Here's Janice Low again.
Almost 1.3 million people in Hong Kong have been infected with COVID since the pandemic began in 2020. Most recovered fully, but a number experienced what's called long COVID. This refers to those who feel sick and have at least one consistent symptom for at least 4 weeks after recovery. The common symptoms include fatigue and shortness of breath. A study by the Chinese University's Faculty of Medicine looked at patients' guts.
People with long COVID have abnormal gut microbiota. They have increase in the bad bacteria that are the ones that can cause some of these symptoms. And they also have reduction in the beneficial bacteria that may help them defend or build an immune system.
The team has rolled out a large-scale survey to gain a deeper understanding of long COVID and provide medical and even social assistance to patients. It hopes that people taking part would donate their stool to help study how to minimize the possibility of long COVID as well as treating it. QR codes of the questionnaire are available at hospital authority clinics.
The Chinese University medical team has a multidisciplinary clinic to provide long COVID patients with a personalized analysis. They will then be referred to experts such as psychiatrists and occupational therapists, depending on the symptoms they suffer from. Janice Low, HKIBC.
2 teenagers involved in a street protest more than 2 years ago have been found not guilty of manslaughter, having been initially charged with murder. The unanimous decision came after 7 High Court jurors deliberated for 6 hours. Calvin Lau, aged 19, and 18-year-old Chen Yin-ting were also acquitted of a separate wounding charge. But they were convicted of rioting and will be sentenced next week. The pair had taken part in a violent skirmish in Shengshui in November 2019. Rival groups had hurled bricks at each other, and a 70-year-old man was killed after he was hit in the head. Veteran activist Koo Si-yew has been jailed for 9 months for a colonial-era offense of attempting to protest with a seditious intention. The 75-year-old, who has terminal cancer, was arrested in February at his home, shortly before he was to stage a rally at the liaison office. The Winter Olympics was due to kick off in Beijing that day. Police seized a mock coffin scribbled with the words "Down with the Communist Party" and slogans against the national security law. Judge Peter Law said Koo's goal was to topple the Constitution. Koo was unfazed by the verdict, telling the judge that doing time is part of his life. The government has given the green light for the merger of 2 bus companies which mainly serve passengers on Hong Kong Island. The move is expected to cut costs and improve services. Isaac Lee reports.
After 24 years, New World First buses will have a facelift. The bus franchise will officially merge with Citybus in July next year. They have been sister companies since 2003. Their parent firm Bravo pledged not to lay off any drivers in the first 2 years after the merger. But some overlapping routes on Hong Kong Island may be integrated.
For example, if you had 2 routes running in parallel that operated at a frequency of 20 minutes with separate service numbers, it could potentially be a logical conclusion to say you merge those and get a frequency of 10 minutes on one service. And that actually improves the offering to the end user.
Fares will remain unchanged immediately after the merger, but there could be adjustments later.
Actually, it's our mission to offer the best value fares that are fit for purpose and ensure that we have a sustainable business and a sustainable model that takes us forward.
Bravo, which recorded a loss of $60 million in February, is confident that the merger will help reduce costs. The corporation will spend $3.5 billion to upgrade services in the coming decade. This includes buying buses and building garages and depots. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
Overseas, one of Britain's most accomplished athletes has dropped a bombshell. Mo Farah says he was illegally trafficked to the country as a child and was forced to work as a servant. Winner Wong reports.
Olympic champion Mo Farah has shocked his legions of fans, saying his real name is Hussein Abdi Kahin. In a BBC documentary to be released tomorrow, he makes other revelations, which he has kept secret for 30 years. When he was 8 years old, he was taken to Britain from the breakaway state of Somaliland by a woman he didn't know. Farah was under the impression he was heading to Europe to join relatives. But on arrival in London, the woman tore up a piece of paper which had his relatives' contact details. He spent the first few years in Britain as a child servant and was not allowed to attend school until he was 12. There, his athletic prowess was noticed and nurtured, and he went on to win 4 Olympic gold medals and 6 world championships in the 5,000-meter and 10,000 meters. Farah, who's now 39, became a British citizen and was knighted 9 years ago. He had previously described himself as a refugee from Somalia. The British government identified over 12,000 potential victims of modern slavery last year, the highest number since records began in 2009. A study by the U.S. State Department in 2020 estimated there are around 13,000 trafficking victims in England. Winna Wong, HKIBC.
Britain's next Prime Minister is expected to be announced on September 5th. That's according to the leader of the powerful 1922 committee, which will elect a successor to Prime Minister Boris Johnson.
We need to make sure there's a reasonable amount of time for the party membership in the country to have a chance to meet and question the candidates at regional husting. It seems to be quite a big field at the moment, a lively contest. I hope we will have a very constructive contest, but a really good opportunity for a proper, healthy, constructive debate about the future direction of the Conservative Party.
The 11 MPs currently vying for the post of Conservative chief will face several rounds of balloting. Johnson resigned as party chief last week after numerous scandals, but is staying on as Prime Minister until his successor is named. Hundreds of people have lined the streets of Tokyo for a final send-off of former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe. Long queues could be seen outside the Sojoji Temple earlier today. A hearse carrying Abe's body then left and made a tour around the Japanese capital, including driving by the headquarters of his Liberal Democratic Party and the Prime Minister's office. Current leader Fumio Kishida led a group of other officials in paying their last respects. Abe's body is to be cremated and buried in his family cemetery in his hometown Yamaguchi. Meanwhile, China lodged a complaint with Japan after Taiwan's Vice President William Lai attended Abe's funeral. The authorities in Henan and Anhui provinces will repay most people whose deposits in rural banks were frozen, while officials investigated a banking scam. This comes after 1,000 people staged an angry protest on Sunday outside the central bank's branch in Zhengzhou, capital of Henan. The deposits could be as much as 10 billion yuan. The money will be repaid in batches, with the first installment on Friday going to those with deposits under 50,000 yuan. Some suspects in the scam have been arrested. Now let's take a look at the local markets. The Hang Seng ended the day down 279 points. To the top 10 active stocks, BYD lost $36.60. Alibaba down $6.20, while the tracker fund was down 28 cents. JD.com down $4.20, but Geely Auto was up 20 cents. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 7.88, the pound sterling 9.29, while the Australian dollar at 5.29. Finally, in Europe, the London FTSE is currently down 32 points. First images from the U.S. James Webb telescope have been beamed back from space. The pictures show the deepest view of the cosmos ever captured. The $10 billion telescope was launched into space in December and is considered the successor of the aging Hubble Space Telescope. Scientists hope the Webb can give them a glimpse of the early days of the universe, shortly after the Big Bang. On to the weather now. It will be very dry and very hot tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 28 and 35 degrees. The mercury will stay high for the rest of the week. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond. Good night.